Man, you cannot marry a woman without gills. You're from two different worlds. Oh, I've wasted my life.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. A little bit earlier in the day, I talked about the DC Comics solicitations for August 2021. I promised that I'd be talking to Comics by Perch about some of the bat fatigue selling in, and obviously here with me to talk about that is the man himself. Perch, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
So I didn't think DC Comics could really saturate the bat market more than they already have. We talked about the Batman the World hardcover with Joe yesterday, but just not even talking about the trades and the hardcovers and all that stuff. Just thinking about comic books. By my count, because August is going to be a 5-week month,
right?
So there's an extra Tuesday in there. DC Comics is going to be shipping 70 new periodic or floppy comics for the month.
Yeah, it's they're a lot of people have talked about DC's cutting back. They did for a period of time, but they've absolutely returned to form. So there's plenty of books out there. It's a busy month. Now granted, a lot of ongoing series have been replaced with limited series and one shots and other things. That's definitely now clearly part of their world is more shorter term stuff. But yeah, they're putting out a ton of stuff. So there's no shortage, which frankly is a bad thing, I think.
And by my count, Batman is starring in 17 of those comic books. 24% of the entire lot. Batman is in a starring role, whether it's a Batman comic, Detective Comics, Batman, Superman, Batman, Catwoman, be it Justice League.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Batman.
It is. This is one of those things where you look at this and you're like, it's too much. And arguably it is. The problem is when you look at the sales for the month, it reflects the same thing. It reflects that people are still consuming Batman more than other titles. And so it feels insane. It feels like not good long-term thinking because you are going to burn out that character and your ideas. But it also feels like they are responding to the market, which is tough for me to say out loud, but it's true.
Perch is quickly becoming the enemy of the state here on Thinking Critical. And
well,
not only those
Batman shirts, I just have to point out.
I'm part of the problem, I know. And not only are 17 of those led by Batman himself, 32 of the total 70 comics are fronted by Batman associated or Batman himself. So, your Harley Quinn, Robin type characters. Yeah. That's 46% of the line are led by Batman characters.
It's insanity. So you have to look at it this way as a reader. No, I don't like this. DC has a very, very rich universe with tons of characters, a lot of great stuff in there. And I don't like that it's so bat centric. I think it's terrible. And as a kind of retailer, kind of as a forecaster, I think this is bad because even though it is getting a lot of sales and it is, there's no denying that. This tends to burn out those sales. So you give people too much too fast, and it tends to hurt the overall line. So, the question mark becomes, if you're going to use this strategy, are you still going to have, guaranteed Batman sales in a year? Or is the property going to seem a lot cooler because they oversaturated it, which they comic companies always do. They did it with Wolverine. They did it with Deadpool. They've done it both groups. And it feels very much like Batman is going to have the same problem.
I love Alfred Pennyworth. One of my favorite supporting characters in all of comics. Sure. Apparently he's going to be starring in his own 007-like comic book. We've got an Alfred Pennyworth starred comic book, but we don't have JSA. We don't have Legion of Superheroes. We don't have Aquaman ongoing. We don't have Green Arrow, Atom, Hawkman, Black Lightning, Huntress, Donna Troy, Jonah Hex. The list goes on and on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There is no semblance of Vertigo and any of that kind of stuff that spawned a lot of nice independent comics once upon a time. But again, a lot of this is really geared toward the movies and the shows. The Pennyworth book is a 7-issue series, and it's definitely connected to the TV show in style and everything else. I think there's a desire to get a ton of material out prior to the movie. So there's lots of trades on the shelf ready for all kinds of different Batman.
Oh, yeah. Did you see the Suicide Squad? Woo.
Yep. That's Suicide Squad is there too. It's a lot.
That's smart.
It's smart. It's hard to get these books out in alignment. It is, like I said, this is tough because it's too much. It's absolutely too much. But right now, customers tend to come to the table and pay for Batman, and that's they're sending, many times, many YouTube channels talk about how comic publishers should listen to their customers. Their customers are right now sending a message of buying Batman, and so they're producing more Batman. I think this is a bad long-term strategy, but we, the customers, keep giving them Batman money, and they keep making Batman books.
It's kind of crazy. They have a perfect place for a lot of these stories. They have, is it 3 Batman anthologies, about to be 4, correct?
Sure. Yes. Yes. No,
that'd be a perfect place for this Alfred Pennyworth story. Maybe you could front one of them.
They do. I mean, with Alfred Pennyworth, it's a simple matter of, it's 7 series. It's going to make a really nice trade. It's going to go out. It's going to be sitting there. If people watch the show, or they're going to hope they go and buy the trade. I mean, that's exactly what that is. But I mean, look, I like you rattle off kind of a list of characters. I mean, where is Legion of Superheroes right now, and all the different things you can do? There's some really cool things that are happening in other corners of the DC universe that could use more breathing room, use tie-ins, use one-shots to support it. There's tons of other material you can do, and it's but hell, even the DC round robin poll has come down to Batman versus Suicide Squad. That's and that was, and it was ludicrous, but I mean, you looked at the votes on Instagram and they were overwhelmingly in support of a Robin's book and Suicide Squad. It was not close.
It's crazy. If you see the cover for Robin in August, it looks like we're at least getting a Robin's issue.
Yeah, no, we are absolutely. I mean, so this is really painful to see every time. But it remains the case that these, people keep buying Batman. If you're, the challenge for DC is, I don't think it would be hard. Okay, you take Aquaman. How do you make an Aquaman title that can stand on its own, that can get interest and people can read? Green Lantern right now is doing something very different with their story. And it's achieving a following. It seems the sales are doing well. The orders for the later issues are going up, from what I've been told. That's great. That's one title, getting an audience, putting things together. You just need to do that more places. I mean, the challenge is every time there's a room for a new book, they're like, well, we can take what we think is easy money in the Batman universe and throw that in there, or we can spend the effort to kind of build up some other new property. And what seems to be the case is they're picking easy money.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I love Batman. He's not my favorite Batman associated character. I like Nightwing more, but Batman's still right up there. And I'm definitely part of the problem. I'm planning on reading Batman Reptilian. I'm definitely going to be reading Suicide Squad, Get Joker. There's some interesting stuff out there. They tend to put a lot of their better creators on the Batman stuff as well. But if you take someone like Tim Board, he's got the Hawk World website, throwing his own time, sweat, and money into promoting DC Comics character. Eventually, he's got to be like, what am I doing this for? I love this character, but it feels like, I love DC Comics, I love Hawkman, but they don't really love me back.
Yeah, I agreed. No, and this is what happens, and this is where you do see creators moving other places. I mean, the strange part to me is that I've been watching several of these interviews with other DC creators. Josh Williamson did one on Word Balloon, and the consistent message from everyone, and it's becoming almost a strange that everybody has the same line, which is now we have more creative freedom than ever. Now we, this is very exciting to be in DC right now because we have tons of creative freedom. Apparently, though, that creative freedom everybody was hoping for was more Batman books. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Well, I imagine every up-and-coming comic book writer, or maybe an established writer that hasn't been at DC, has at least a Batman story that they've always wanted to tell. And that might not all translate to every other character except for maybe Superman.
Sure. I'm sure there is. I mean, Batman's one of those characters, definitely. It's on the bucket list for a lot of people, and everything else. It's just the challenge is if you go to this well too often, it's very hard to market the differences. I mean, right now there's multiple series in Batman at this very minute that are dealing with kind of, a fascist police state type environment, multiple. And so how do they stand out? I mean, you have a bigger problem. I mean, hopefully what you're doing is you're bringing up other titles. You're bringing up your Aquamans and Green Lanterns and Wonder Womans and all the rest so they can start to expand, and you got to get attention on those. But if you're going kind of what feels like an easier route and you're putting out 30 Batman books, then your problem, at first you get some money, that's great. But very quickly, it's how do you differentiate between those Batman books? What are the good ones? I mean, very soon you've just changed your problem to another area. And I do think this is bad long term. We've seen this again with other companies, saw with the X-Men, and I think we're seeing with the X-Men again, kind of frankly right now. But bar none, there is no publisher putting out more of one title right now than DC and Batman.
Yeah, it's crazy. And just think about some of the characters I mentioned earlier.
Sure.
Within the DC universe, there's only one Batman. Well, not anymore. There's two Batman, but there are other characters that have Batman like functions and kind of Batman atmosphere. But really, there's no other character kind of like Green Arrow.
Yeah.
There's really no character that you can tell a story kind of like you do with Jonah Hex or even Hawkman, where he's an archaeologist. You get to do this really cool Indiana Jones style vibe to it. And it feels like the flavor of DC Comics has just become one note. That's kind of my biggest disappointment. I understand why it's happening, but I also understand the frustrations because not everybody's favorite character is Batman. A lot of people might buy Batman comics, but they might also like another character more. And it feels like, I want to support Batman. I want to support DC Comics, but I would like a story that's, a little bit different than what we're currently getting. So I feel like you're never going to get the next Batman if all you do is promote and create Batman.
It's no, absolutely. I think that right now DC is trying to get other characters up and going. The Flash has got this new kind of method that he's doing. Wally West is back there where he's going to go. You've got John Kent that they're trying to make the new Superman. You have these initiatives they're trying to do. The challenge is with only one title and kind of one of 70, there's no breathing room when you've got multiple people are trying to get Joker. I mean, there's a Joker series where people trying to get Joker, and then there's also Get Joker, and and you go on and on and on. And again, with even Batman, they want to have Jace Fox be this new character that they can make some money off of and can be part of the Batman mythology. Well, Jace Fox has to compete with 20 other Batman-centric titles where you've got multiple versions of kind of Bruce Wayne in different realities. You've got the Tom King version, and you've got the Tynion version, and you have the Bruce Timm version, or the Paul Dini version, and you just got
Sean Gordon Murphy's White Knight universe.
Yeah, I mean, so what hope, if you hope to have something with Jace Fox, what hope do you really have of that character standing out in all this mess? It won't happen.
Think about Wonder Girl. There's 4 Wonder Women right now.
Sure.
You've got Diana, who's dead, but she's got her own title. Hippolyta's Wonder Woman on the Justice League team, but Nubia's the queen of Themyscira is also getting her own story. And then you've got Wonder Girl, who's the Yara gang's going, what the hell? She's supposed to be the up-and-coming character.
Yeah, I mean, Yara Flor is one where you had some initial interest in the character. People seem to like the character. You had that sense of a CW show that gets canceled. And, now the character has a title, but the heat is gone from that book, quite frankly. And I know people still like Yara and those fans are still there, but I mean, it's buried in these solicitations. It's in there, but it's toward the bottom, and it's the solicitation is pretty much nothing. And where's it all going? Where it goes is this book lasts 10 issues or less and gets canceled. That's where it goes, and we get another Batman book to replace it. So I mean, this is not a great solution.
Yeah, it's crazy just thinking about like 2 years ago, over 2 years ago when I started the channel. For the most part, I could almost read everything at DC Comics, and Marvel was just a major headache. And it feels like there's probably still more good stuff at DC Comics, but it's almost all Batman related, and it's almost equally frustrating to what Marvel's doing.
It's a lot of titles. I mean, I know that what the narrative, what people say is like, oh, look, DC's cutting back on comics, so this is bad. They're gonna vanish. But it was healthy to cut back on comics to get to a point where the retailers and the customers could clearly identify what they're doing and be, put your best foot forward. Seeing it kind of balloon back up again to this amount of titles is disappointing. I mean, it's again, if you're a fan of comics, the counter argument is always like, what do you care if there's a book for everybody? Then it doesn't really matter. Well, where I care is when you have this much content to market and push, is somebody gets a short end of the stick. And the groups that are going to get the short end of the stick are going to be the things that aren't the top sellers. And the top sellers are Batman, which means the rest of their line is going to suffer. This isn't a bold prediction. This is what always happens. And so that's why it's not necessarily a great thing that we have all these books. But if you're a Batman fan, I mean, what a time to be alive.
This isn't going to affect, I think this isn't going to affect Batman's popularity. He's the most popular comic book character out there. He's the most sellable character in current times. I imagine eventually that'll change. Somebody will take the top spot again, but it's just burying every other character. And I think it feels like it's going to drive readers away. They're like, okay, well, I guess they're never going to write the character I love again. I'll read back issues and find something else to do.
I think there's that risk for sure. I think it's and there's some cool concepts, by the way. Batman in the world looks like a really cool concept to me. I think that's interesting what they're doing. I'm not a huge fan of anthologies, but still,
perfect Superman story.
But it's a lot. And keep in mind, this is 1 month. All right, this is August. In September, we get officially Fear State, which will kick off, which will have a number of tie-ins and one-shots and other things. So the Batman,
and there's going to be new titles supposedly associated with that.
Yes, we are. This is not the most Batman we're going to see, not by a long shot. September will be more.
Well, Perch, I do want to say thank you very much. You pissed in my Cheerios today. I was expecting something, lighthearted. Maybe you're going to uplift me, but it's all Batman for the foreseeable future, unfortunately.
Sorry.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.